All right, folks. Good evening. How are you? Welcome to Monday Night Law. Kirk's Law Corner over here. This is August 7th, 2023. This is going to be a great show tonight. I know I put it out on Telegram. I didn't really put it out much anywhere else, but those of you on Telegram, I shared some videos earlier for you folks to watch so that you would have a better grasp of what I'm about to explain tonight without having to go into great detail. For those that have been following me for at least 3, maybe 4 years, you'll already kind of know some of this stuff because I've said a lot of this stuff already. Already put a lot of this stuff out there. In fact, pretty much everything I'm going to go over tonight, I've already put out there, with the exception of the new development here, and which is the Trump's latest indictment. Okay, and now I'm gonna share some video footage here from the Brits over there, and we're gonna get a really good idea, and there's gonna be a lot of "I told you so's" in this video. And I'm going to make sure that I point them out. I told you so. Especially for those that, where's your source? Where's your evidence and that kind of stuff. Some of this stuff, this is about the best you're going to freaking get coming out of somebody's mouth that kind of really is in the know. So you're really going to want to pay attention here. And as I play this video, I'm going to stop and I'm going to go over certain things. And a couple places I'm going to tell you I told you so. Okay? Because it's about that time where the I told you so is coming around. So buckle up, buttercups, because here it comes. This is what is coming our way. Good to see a corruption detector over here on Telegram. CC over there on Facebook. Why is it not doing the YouTube? My chat. Oh well. Unless nobody's made a comment on YouTube yet. And for YouTubers out there, because of the content and some of the verbiage that may be here, YouTube will probably give me a strike. So before they give me a strike, I will take down the YouTube video. So for those of you on YouTube that, if you're not catching it right now live, it's probably only going to be up till about midnight, and then I'm going to take it down. No, audio's working, as far as I can tell, on Telegram. And definitely audio's working out over here, so let's make sure we got good audio. Rumble, how you guys doing out there? I got 14 over there. Can somebody make a comment in there to ensure that we have audio on Rumble and as well as over there on Telegram? Diesel D's, how you doing, brother? Give me an audio check. Make sure everything's going good, please. Good audio on Telegram. Okay. So if you're having audio issues, especially on Telegram, just jump out and come back in. This may be one of those videos tonight where, especially Telegram, you might get kicked off. Facebook, you might get kicked off. Okay, good audio there. YouTube. Okay, there are comments from YouTube over there. Okay, cool. Thank you, Red October 7 on Rumble. I greatly appreciate that. 5x5 over there. This is good. This is good. Thank you, Shining Light on Rumble as well. And all those over here on Telegram, YouTube, and Facebook. Thank you. Because we really don't want to miss this. As I lay this stuff out, or as it's already kind of been laid out in this video. Okay? So here we go. And this is from the Brits over here, mainstream media. And I believe this was August 3rd, 2023. Whoa, what did I just do? I just wanted to move it. Although I could make that bigger, huh? All right. So without further ado, here's the video, and this is GB News. This was previously broadcasted live, I believe, on August 3rd, 2023.
Of the pond, should we? Because Donald Trump has hit back at prosecutors just hours before his court appearance on charges of trying to overturn the results of the 2020 election.
Yes, the former president said the indictment was unprecedented and showed the corruption of the Biden presidency.
Well, it's the third time in 4 months he's been charged, and as we understand it, probably not the last, as he campaigns to regain the presidency. Meanwhile, his son, his eldest, Donald Jr., spoke to Nigel Farage last night, and he questions the timing of the indictment.
You know, I don't believe any of this has anything to do with January 6th. If it did, and if January 6th was everything that they said, why, Nigel, did they wait 2.5 years to charge him? I mean, the people that were there that did those, they were charged that day.
Well, let's talk to Jan Halper-Hayes, who's a U.S. political analyst.
Jan Halper-Hayes. Okay. This woman here is going to drop some bombs, truth bombs. And this is where the I told you so is going to come in. And, you know, it's quite an impeccable timing. Like Junior just said there, well, why is this 2 years later? Okay, it's all part of the plan. And this is what I've already kind of put out there. It's like, I put it out there as a question because I already kind of know, or have at least a good idea of what's coming. Now, not to the extent of exactly what day and exactly how this is going to play out. But the key here is that Trump was going to do this to expose the DOJ, the FBI. They're on the chopping block, okay? Along with all these other three-letter agencies and the whole entire government, the de facto, as we're going to hear what she has to say here. Some of these steps that have already been done, starting clear back in 2017. Okay? So this is going to get interesting, and again, I'm going to stop this as she makes a certain comment, and I'm going to tell you I told you so.
He's here in the studio. Good to see you, as always.
Good to see you.
There's so many people putting this down as a political conspiracy theory, but actually there are real questions to be answered here.
There are?
Yeah, of course there are. Of course there are.
What he's being accused of, but what part do you think is to answer that the 2020 election is going to be litigated because of this?
The 2020 election is going to be relitigated? Now listen to what she says here, because this is, I told you so, because the part about Trump's cases. Oh yeah, Trump's cases were dismissed. Okay. What did I say then? The judicial branch doesn't have what? Subject matter jurisdiction. Now they call it standing here. But in reality, it's subject matter. If the court doesn't have subject matter, there's no standing. Because Trump obviously has standing as the runner for president. He would have standing for a cause of action. But in reality, it's a lack of subject matter jurisdiction, just like the Brunsons were told in the Utah District Court. The appellate court affirmed. The Supreme Court of Utah affirmed. The Supreme Court of the United States affirmed. Right on their own paperwork, it says lack of standing and lack of subject matter jurisdiction. The subject is elections. But I told you so.
They've made a huge mistake with this one, because even though we thought what was going to happen was they were going to go after him for treason or sedition, but they did criminally charge him, but they didn't go to that extreme. As a result, he has due process, so he can subpoena people and bring things in. Now, let me say something about this 2020 election, is that Biden is the legitimate president, but he's the legitimate president of what is now the bankrupt U.S. corporation.
What? I told you so. The bankrupt corporation, United States, Inc. That'd be June 20th of 2020. That's right. Involuntary bankruptcy done by Trump. I told you so.
And that was a treaty in 1871. Well, on September 12th, 2018...
What was that again?
Trump...
That would have been 1871. Technically the second bankruptcy, because the third and final bankruptcy was until 1933. But that's where things really went off the rails in 1871, at least to most people's basic understanding. The truth is, technically speaking, we didn't win the Civil War. District of Columbia was created in 1789, and which was the first bankruptcy, which wasn't finalized until 1791 with the Bill of Rights. That's the first bankruptcy.
Created an executive order. Within that, he outlined in future elections any kind of foreign or domestic interference.
Okay. Executive Order 13848. That's the one that Derek Johnson really likes to talk about. And it's a good one to talk about because it deals with foreign interference with a federal election. Okay? Now, going back to the original issue when Trump ran in 2016, 2017 there, they didn't think he was going to win, remember? Remember the NSA. Oh, that's right. No strings attached. I mean, yeah, National Security Agency, I think is what that is. They have everything. Everything. Every last text message, email, phone call, anything and everything you can think of. Every transaction, occurrences, and events. Okay, it's all been recorded, and this is in part what Trump was talking about as what? We have it all. This is all being played out. And listen to what she says here shortly.
Specifically for the 2020 election. So we say, how did he know some of these things were going to happen? Election integrity on both sides of the aisle is tough. It's really tough. But what this has done is it's opened the door for Trump to present his case.
Well, that's a good thing, isn't it? Because what we see on this side of the pond is a very difficult situation where the legal system is politicised in the United States, which is abhorrent to us over here. So the fact that Trump can subpoena, some people saying it's a mistake by Jack Smith, but actually he can subpoena.
Who was a mistake by Jack Smith. Are we not aware of things by now? Many, many people have already been arrested. This is all playing out. It's a plan, right? Because the people could not handle the military essentially just coming in and taking over. People would freak out. I've said this before, and here comes the I told you so. Ready? Here she goes.
The people can actually see evidence from both sides. That's a sensible move.
Exactly. And it's a great mistake by Jack Smith that he's done that. Absolutely great. See, the thing is, think about Edward Snowden and all the information he had. Think about the fact that our military, our Department of Defense Space Force, if you think that they don't have the actual real results from the election, then you're fooling yourself.
Yeah, but
I told you so. So if you think that they don't have it all, you're fooling yourself. Quoting what she just said there. Okay? Trump has said it many times, we have it all. I keep saying this, the I told you so. Did everybody forget about the NSA? You don't think Trump took over the NSA? Good Lord.
What we do know with this is we're told that there are plenty of notes from people, including Vice President Pence, that there are some recordings of Donald Trump acknowledging that actually what he said in public was nonsense. That some of these states, whether he claimed he was out saying look, Detroit, it's corrupt, it's all corrupt, the results are corrupt, and that when in reality he knew it wasn't. That's illegal.
But you know what? That's what someone's claiming, but that's not the fact, and that's not what Donald Trump really has ever said. He's been very, very clear. I mean, the issues were, for example, in Pennsylvania, the Supreme Court of the state of Pennsylvania stepped in and changed some of the election laws. Under our Constitution, it's only the state legislators that can do that. 2,000 mules.
I told you so. I've said this before. Only the legislature creates the legislation regarding elections. Neither of the other branches can change, especially like what they did. Some states there it was governors. Pennsylvania was the judicial branch. Okay, changing the statutes regarding elections, how they are supposed to be conducted. I even showed it straight from the Constitution, where it says that the legislature is the one that does this. I've showed it from Lex Parliamentary Americana. You know, the law and practice of the legislative assemblies in the United States of America. That's the law. The law dictates the legislature has that power. The law. Not the code, not the statutes. The law does.
The film that came out, what they did, they spent over $4 million tracking the phones. And the reason it's only 2,000 mules is that based on the visits to the drop boxes in Georgia, they had to have gone over 10 times. And they've got all the film for that. So the thing is that the election integrity. So
she's saying, 2,000 mules. They already have all the video footage of all these drop boxes, and it even in 2,000 mules goes even further and shows tracking of cell phones, right? And showing the pattern of where they went to these different drop boxes to stuff these ballots. Okay? Is that not fraud? Yeah, it sure is. Oh, that would be one of them. I told you so.
Integrity is so different and so problematic in every single state. But that doesn't mean that the machines didn't do something, that there were some other kind of finagling, but the long and short... Go ahead.
Well, it doesn't, but that's where conspiracy comes in, is it? To say, well, it doesn't mean that something didn't happen. Well, there's no evidence that it happened. I mean, there's how many court cases did the Trump campaign try to bring? There's nothing.
That doesn't have any evidence of it. Yes, there was. Remember Mike Lindell's symposium. Okay, this goes into kind of one of my skills that I have is A+ hardware, software, network plus networking systems, and how all them packets are transferred, and oh, that's right, it's all documented. And they showed this at the symposium, the evidence that they have. Okay? They have it all. Every last bit of it. And there were transactions, packets sent back and forth between foreign countries, foreign nations. Gee, would that be that Executive Order 13848? Yep, it sure would. I told you so.
It's gone in his favor.
Okay, wait a minute. Everyone, the media goes, oh, there were 60 court cases that were rejected. No, there were 3. He won 2, he lost 1, 57 were never heard because they had no standing.
Oh, there it is. So out of the 3, Trump won 2. But we don't talk about that part, do we? No, nobody does. Nobody talks about the 2 that he did win. Okay, but again, the judicial branch doesn't have subject matter jurisdiction. Now, although she says standing here, it's not really so much as standing as it is subject matter. Now, if they don't have subject matter, there's no standing. You can't bring a cause of action in a certain branch of government where that branch of government doesn't have jurisdiction. So there's a lack of standing there. Does that make sense?
And standing means that the person bringing the case has to claim some kind of impact or injury. So if...
Okay, you don't think Trump claimed some sort of impact or injury? That it affected the outcome of the election? And then Trump doesn't have standing for that? Think about that. It wasn't the right time. Okay? Now is the time.
It's really, you know, the media did that, and they're great at doing that, but it was a fallacy in there. And the thing is that...
well, the media lies?
You know, I sit on a task force at the Department of Defense, and the thing is, they've got the goods. They've got the goods, and Trump knew that if he presented any of the goods early on, we'd have a civil war. That he really felt that the people needed to see how bad it could get.
And
it'd be a I told you so. The reason why this stuff isn't essentially where the military is coming in and just taking this stuff down is because it would cause a civil war. People would lose their frickin' minds, and especially some of the good patriots out there that are knowledgeable on Agenda 21, Agenda 2030. Some of them are not awake yet, and I've tried to share with some people here in Idaho and stuff, and they don't want to listen. They're still stuck on Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, and think that's all still coming. That it's all here. No, there's been many arrests. There's been executions. You know, I've shared this before. Recorded it right off my own damn TV, where it says the DOJ is attempting to stop Trump from doing any further executions. I believe there was 12 or 13 that already had happened at that time. Okay? So the question is, which I put out there on Facebook and Telegram here just a little over a week ago, how does the DOJ stop Trump from doing executions if executions are not happening? They would have to be happening first in order for the DOJ to attempt to stop that. But the reality is nothing can stop what is coming. Okay? This is a military operation. It's been in the works since JFK, 1963. Okay? The origin of Q. Remember? The Q clearance. Q is a military operation. It's a military clearance. And, I don't know. Derek Johnson backs that up. Backs up several things that I've said over the years already. So there's a bunch of I told you so's there. But let's continue on here with what she's saying, because that's the reason why this is having to be played out. Because there are a lot of people that live fairly, happy lives, and they really don't think that there's that much corruption going on. There's several times I've asked people, hey, do you think there's any corruption within government, like at all? And they'll sit there and think for a minute, and well, yeah, maybe. So they're still planted in their seat with there's no corruption. They don't think there's any corruption. They're not aware of it because they haven't been subjected to it. Because they've been good little boys and girls, and they go to work, they pay their taxes, they pay their mortgages, they pay their car payments, they pay their insurance, they do everything they're supposed to do according to what they want the slaves to do, mostly because they make enough money that they can afford to do all that and live a very happy and comfortable life. And I'm talking about basically the middle class. Well, now that the middle class is kind of going in the toilet, it's forcing the middle class people to wake up and go, what the heck is going on here? And try to get people to, understand, one, election fraud's been going on for a long time. A long time. Probably even, I can almost guarantee you, long before our Constitution of 1789. Long before that. People have been murdered. There's, it's just a thing. It's a contest, right? And some people don't want to lose. Some want to make sure that their guy gets in. So certain people will get murdered for that. That's the way it's been for a long time. So it shouldn't be anything new to hear about election fraud, election interference, and those kinds of things. Okay?
That's the sense that we're getting from Trump's lawyer about what his defense is going to be. So this is all going to be based on free speech, the First Amendment in the US Constitution, that he had a right to say what he believed, and he believed that the election results were not as was put out. But the point is, if you...
See, this isn't going to be about freedom of speech. Remember, subpoena power. Okay, he's going to get to subpoena all these records. Oh, I don't know, maybe the ones from the NSA. What do you think is going to happen when Trump subpoenas all these records from the NSA proving foreign interference in a federal election? Now, what about the ballots being watermarked and having individual serial numbers on each and every single ballot? They know exactly which ones are the legitimate ones and which ones are not. Okay? There's already been a couple different people that have talked about it. One in Arizona legislature and in court now, talking about how these machines, and he, is one of the ones who designed the software. So he knows how that stuff's supposed to work. And he's saying these machines were tampered with. Oh, and then they have the log showing just before they open up to start receiving ballots and running the machines that somebody logged into it and changed some of the information in there. Oh, gee. That might come out in evidence. So this stuff is going to play out in court for everybody to see. So we're not going to be able to deny this evidence because it's going to be presented in a court case. Okay? And yeah, you're right. Enjoy the show. It is a show. It is being played out as part of the plan. Okay? It was a 7-year plan. And we're coming up on the 7-year delta. So, in my mind, and I'll just go ahead and say this right now, I think what's actually going to happen is we're not going to have a 2024 election. Once this stuff comes out and the truth comes out, and everybody gets to see the truth, and then the military comes in. So one of two things is going to happen. Either one, the military is immediately going to come in after everybody gets put on notice of all the election fraud, election interference, the truth. Everybody gets to see it. It becomes a matter of public record when it goes into a court case. So, unless somehow the judge decides to seal it, but I'm not thinking that's what's going to happen here. And then the military will come in and basically declare martial law, which is in part what I've already learned from Destry over there at national-assembly.net, is that the military is planning on coming in and basically wiping out all the state governments, the de facto, take it all down, and we'll be under martial law until the people reassemble the General Assembly. Now, we have certain states that have already have assembled their General Assemblies, so we need to get up to 38 before we can take full control. In the interim, we'll be under martial law and the military will be in control, which is not going to be a bad thing. But I can tell you right now, there's going to be a lot of people that still freak out. Now, the other option is that this all gets played out and the 2024 election comes around, and the military comes in to the booths, to all the polling places, everywhere. everywhere there's where we're going to do ballots, military is going to be there, and nobody's going to come in and nobody's going to leave until all of the ballots have been in and accounted for, and the results are there. No sneaking in suitcases, no late midnight drops. Oh, well, we're going to be here till 3 o'clock in the morning, or that kind of stuff. That's not going to happen with the military watching, standing there. Nobody's going to go in and nobody's going to come out. And everybody that's going in is going to be checked. The whole building's going to be checked. The whole area around the machines will be checked. There'll be military standing right there watching the whole damn thing. That's my two scenarios that I think what's actually going to go down. And I'm actually leaning more towards the first one, but I don't think we're quite ready for that. So it might be the second option, that the military stands guard and ensures, because of what's going to be exposed, is part of the plan. So that we don't end up in an all-out civil war. This is what the whole COVID pandemic scam was about, was to ensure the win, right? It was a cover, so they could allow mail-in ballots. Well, this is for our health, safety. We have to do mail-in and drop boxes because, we need to stay 6 feet apart and wear masks, and this makes it easier for people to cast their votes, so, it's a free and fair election. Right. One big scheme, scam, and fraud. And again, the NSA. I'm sure they have lots of text messages, phone calls, emails about all this stuff.
If you live in a democracy and you believe in a democracy, then that means that even if you don't like the outcome of an election, you respect that because it's a democratic vote.
Well, a democratic vote, and so therefore he should be silent about it.
No, he has a right to speak, but the issue, of course, is if he then acts to subvert that election result.
Oh, so that because you think he's being criticized because in Georgia he said, can you find me 12,000 votes? Or, the thing is, he didn't try to subvert anything. What he's really done is he set up the deep state to come out, and that's why we're seeing all these things. I mean, it was...
Did she just say that she set up the deep state? That Trump set up the deep state? Would that be like an I told you so? I think it would be, because I've said that you can't arrest the bad guys before they commit the crimes. You have to allow them to screw up, to commit the crimes first. Then you get them. Okay? And that was the whole point behind the Executive Order 13848. They already have it all. Again, I keep reiterating this, and I told you so, I told you so, I told you so. Did we forget about the NSA? The NSA already has it all. But hey.
Revealed with whistleblowers and Hunter Biden's ex-best friend that in 2015, the head of Burisma gave Joe and Hunter Biden $10 million bribe. In 2018, Joe is on TV publicly saying that he threatened that unless they got the prosecutor fired, that he wasn't going to let them have their $1 billion in support. In 2019,
wow.
Trump calls
the quid pro
Zelensky
quo
to find out about what went on to get the prosecutor fired, and he gets impeached. I mean, we've lived with it for a long time.
We're almost at a time. I just want to pick you up on one thing. You said earlier on, Donald Trump has been very clear on this. Is he a man that you believe? I mean, look, he's about as believable as a chocolate teapot, isn't he?
Look, I know that, thank God you got the negativity in at the end and not the beginning. I can always count on you for that, always.
But it's a legitimate point to say that Donald Trump is a man who always speaks the truth. That can't be the case. I mean, it's hardly the case of any leader, to be fair, but, I mean, definitely not Donald Trump.
Well, I don't know if I said everything or always, because I do call him the embellisher-in-chief, because he's a marketer. But in terms of telling us things, optics, you better believe that he's very much a straight shooter in terms of actions that he's going to take or what he thinks needs to be done.
What? He's a straight shooter. You better believe. Yeah, that's right. This is why it's so important to pay attention to what Trump says and follow the executive orders, because that lays it all out for us. Again, executive orders are commander-in-chief orders to execute the law for the military. That's essentially what an executive order is, because the military gives orders, not a president. Two separate powers and functions. And the comment over here on Telegram. I didn't think Trump was part of the corporation, though. He is a part of the de jure. Okay, so the United States Inc. had to be taken down. So this is what Trump did. Right? And going clear back to, I cannot remember the 13714. It was March 14th of 2017, was a complete audit of the entire executive branch. Now, what do you think that actually means? Would that be an audit to see, and like it said, to see if we got overlapping agencies? Do we have too much stuff created? Essentially a forensic audit on what do we have here that we're supposed to have, and what do we have here that we're not supposed to have? So in my mind, this was a list of things like FBI, DOJ, the EPA. I've got this case right here. Supreme Court of the United States, West Virginia, North American Coal Corporate, Weatherman Mining Holdings, LLC, North Dakota versus Environmental Protection Agency, argued February 28th, 2022, and decided June 30th, 2022. Basically, the Supreme Court has said that Congress has no authority to create these three-letter agencies. That was June 30th of 2022. Okay. This is part of what's coming, folks. This whole de facto stuff, the stuff that's all been unlawfully created, is all going to go bye-bye. It's all getting taken down. So Trump, acting as president, as CEO of the corporation, sure, he did the involuntary bankruptcy on it. The CEO of the corporation did the bankruptcy. It's done. Okay, June 20th, 2020. The United States Inc. is done. Technically speaking, we're in that continuity of government under Article 4, Section 4, and Luther versus Borden and Texas v. White, specifically Texas v. White, that the president, only acting as commander-in-chief, has the power to set up provisional government pending the outcome of the war. This is why I've been hammering so hard that we are at war, world war. See Executive Order 13818. That's the executive order that creates the national emergency to deal with those, and it's a blocking the property, so civil asset forfeiture, those involved in serious human rights abuse and corruption. Worldwide. And that was December 20th, 2017. It was right after that he went into Saudi Arabia. And this is exactly what's been going on and how the treaties of peace have been done. Is he goes in with the military and he takes out the corrupt government. And then institutes new people through a democratic election. Or they appoint temporary people until the people can assemble to have an election. And then Once that is done, then there's a treaty of peace done. And that is exactly what Trump has been doing. And that's exactly my question. The other question I put out there, a week and a half or so ago on Facebook and Telegram. How do you do a treaty of peace if we're not at war? You have to be at war first in order to do a treaty of peace. And some people, oh, well, Trump was brokering them. Yes, that's because of Executive Order 13818. They were taking down the regime, starting with Saudi Arabia, which those names are listed in that executive order. Okay? And Cvine News put that one out there. I shared that video over here on Telegram not too long ago, where she was explaining it too. So I told you so, I told you so, I told you so. That's what's been going on since 2017. Since December 20th, 2017. Okay? And that's what's been going on, as they've been going in and taking down. And where are we at now? In Ukraine. And I've explained this one before, that Ukraine is a world hub for human trafficking, men, women, and children, for whatever purpose you can think of. Not just the sexual side and not just children. It's men, women, and children. Okay? For whatever thing you can think of. Labor, organ harvesting, everything that you can possibly, and everything that they think of, right? I don't want people to think about what you could do to another man. I do not want to use human. It's man. God created mankind. He didn't create human, color of man, monster. He created mankind. So I don't want people thinking about all these things that you could do to a man. I just want you to know that there are some pretty sick, twisted, evil individuals out there who think of all sorts of things to do with men, women, and children. And then you have the arms deals, you have the drug deals, the pharmaceutical industry, the bioweapons. There's just so much going on in Ukraine. And basically, essentially, because Ukraine is a hub for all of this, saving the best for last, except for us here in America, ultimately, that is the best for last. But remember Trump's inauguration speech in 2017. He said he was putting the power back into the people's hands. And that is exactly what he has done for the rest of the world on all those ones that he's gone in and took out the government, the corrupt government, and reinstituted basically democracies and doing democratic elections and then doing treaties of peace. Yeah, over here on YouTube, Agenda 21, Truth 1, Derek Johnson has all of this outlined, right? I've been talking about this since 2017. Long before Derek Johnson ever even come into the spotlight. Long before. So, this is the stuff that Trump's been doing, and the Trump administration, the military operations, that I've said before, long time ago. I've showed the treaties of peace, like long before Trump was even out of office, when they were coming out. I started on this rabbit hole trail and doing lives. Back then, we were doing Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 3 nights a week. For those of you around clear back in 2017, as this stuff came out with an executive order and proclamation, and the proclamation of December 10th, reestablishing the rule of law, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. So for those of you who have been around that long who remember me talking about that stuff on our shows, yes, I was talking about it back then. So let's continue on, because there's some more goodies right here that she's about to drop.
Now, they made fun of him because they assumed he broke protocol and walked in front of the Queen. No, if you go back and look at it, you will see he looked at her. She gave a wave with her hand. He proceeded. She took a couple of steps. He stopped, and he waited for her to join.
Okay, here's an I told you so. And I actually searched for some video. There was a video clip that I swear I shared it on Telegram that had all of this kind of stuff blocked together, including the meeting with the Pope and this kind of stuff that she's going to talk about here in just a second. But right now, when Trump walked in front of the Queen, and I should actually let her finish what she's saying here before I go into this, because there's more to what she's going to say here.
That was an optic to tell us that he then was going to bankrupt the U.S. corporation, because it was the Vatican, the Crown, and the U.S. that was part since 1871.
Okay. Now, the truth is, London, Vatican, and District of Columbia is the Tri-City State. Okay? This was all essentially created in 1871. Yes, that's the Reconstruction Acts, and technically speaking, District of Columbia was created. Any guesses out there? Most people say 1871. And you would be incorrect. Even if you said close to 1871, you'd still be incorrect. Because the District of Columbia was created in 1789. Let me reiterate that again. 1789. What a coincidence. That was the first federal constitution. Why was the District of Columbia created in 1789 if everything went down in 1871? Now, we've been at war since 1776, folks. Okay? And Great Britain is the one, London, Vatican, is the one that's been funding both sides of the wars, World War I, World War II, all of them. It's all been about world domination for a very long time. Even clear back to 400 BC. Ask some Jesuits that know, that are in the know. Yeah. Been around that long, folks. This isn't something new. Okay? So, and I love some of the next stuff she says, but let's touch on how Trump walked in front of the Queen, and she talked about her waving him on. At the very, very, very beginning, when they first came out and they were standing there in the hallway, that was the first time she waved him in front of her. Then when they both get out there on the field in front of her military there and doing an inspection of the military, then she waves him again. No, you go, because she was done. He was there to take control. Yes. That's when England went down. Now, there's some other things that was going on there, but just keep in mind that that's what Trump was doing there, and I told you so. She just laid it out as well, spilling the beans. This is on gbnews.com. This is mainstream media in Great Britain. Why is it not here? Why is this stuff, why is she not on Fox News or CNN or CBS or ABC, NBC, whatever? How come? Wonder why that is. Would that be another I told you so? That because the mainstream media is owned and controlled by 9 people, 6 people, something like that? That's the research I did clear back in 2014. I already learned about fake news and that the media was owned and controlled by 9 people. So, another I told you so, because she already mentioned about the media lying and that kind of stuff. So, here we go again. Listen very carefully, because this gets real good with another I told you so.
And we were giving you our tax dollars. We were paying back. Forget this Tea Party and without taxation, without representation. We owed you a lot of money because you helped us in the Civil War.
Oh, we owed you all this money because you helped us with the Civil War. Now see, See, by congressional act in 1845, they extended admiralty jurisdiction onto the land. Wonder how many people knew that one. Okay? And this is essentially what stirred the commotion. It was not about slavery. It was never about slavery. That's just the ploy, right? Because essentially, I've already showed the statutes at large, real statutes at large, that they were trying to end slavery when? Back in the very beginning, 1794. And it was supposed to be officially ended in 1808, which is in the Constitution. Imagine that. So, oh, this is right here. Where this next part. Here we go.
And so that is what Trump has now, he told the Queen, I'm ending this. We're dissolving this corporation.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to go back to being a republic and we'll all be separate. The Pope wasn't happy. You should find the picture of him visiting the Pope. It took...
Okay. Trump said, we're done. We're done with you, Great Britain. We know. The gig is up. The truth has been found out. This is all a big scheme, scam, and a fraud. Mostly perpetrated by the bar. But we know the deep staters that are behind it. Okay? And that's the reason why Trump walked in front of the Queen, because he is now in charge as Commander-in-Chief, a military operation. Executive Order 13818. Not 48, but 18. Because this was before that election. Okay. This next little tidbit gets really good too, but the Pope part. Okay, this is that video that I wanted to find, which I spent quite a bit of time searching for it and couldn't find it. But the Pope wasn't happy. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't smoking and joking like he usually does with like Obama and Biden and the Bushes and the Clintons. You know, it wasn't all fun and games for the Pope, and I could tell by the look on that man's face and how pale he was looking, and looking down and shaking his head, and yeah, that's what she's referring to, because that was when the Vatican. What was he doing over there? She's going to spill the beans on it. Here's another I told you so.
650 planes to remove our gold from the Vatican Bank.
I'm not very happy.
What? How many planes to remove all of our gold? Our gold from the Vatican? I told you so. Many years ago now. I told you that's what was going on. That was in 2018. Back that up. Uh-oh. What did I do?
And we'll all be separate. The Pope wasn't happy. You should find the picture of him visiting the Pope. It took 650 planes to remove our gold from the Vatican Bank.
I'm not very happy about it, Jan, to be perfectly honest. We could do with your money at the minute. Keep it flowing, I say. Jan Halberhayes, really good to see.
Okay. So, there's quite a bit of stuff there in this video, right? A bunch of I told you so's. So that's what's going on right now, is it's being played out. Right? Because we all can tell that this so-called Biden feller is either a hologram, CGI, or wearing some sort of a mask. It doesn't even look the same as the old guy. And let's give credit where it's due. Derek Johnson is the one that I learned that from, about that was a funeral procession, not an inauguration. You know, military symbolism, they're very serious. So when the military does something a certain way, it means something per military law. And like he has said before, go take a look at Trump's inauguration. Go take a look at somebody else's inauguration and how that all went down. And then compare that to Biden's. Now, when that video footage came out, and I was like, man, there's something wrong here. There's something different. There's something not right here. And I called it out then, but I didn't know that that was a funeral procession. I was talking about the part where the procession part and the military service members were standing on the side of the road smoking and joking with their backs to them. No. Military should never do that to a president. That's a sign of disrespect, dishonor. The fact is that was a funeral procession, and it was also a sign of dishonor. So now that makes more sense to me now that I didn't know that. Like I've said many times, I don't know everything. Come on. I'm just a man like everybody else. I have done a lot of research. I do know a lot of things, but I have never, ever claimed that I know it all. But what I have claimed is that I know some stuff and I don't know some stuff. And this is one of those things. I didn't know the symbolism off the top of my head. I knew that it had something to do with, 3 cannon, 4 cannon, 21 gun salute, where Biden didn't get that stuff. Right? But I've seen enough inaugurations that I knew something wasn't right. As well as some video footage that came out over across the street from whatever that is there, where they supposedly do the inauguration there. I want to say it was the Rose Garden, but I could be incorrect there. Was out on a balcony. And this guy was showing it on the TV, and then he'd go out on the balcony, and there was other big type cameras and stuff over there, focusing over there, allegedly getting ready to, zoom in on this so-called inauguration. But when he went out there and he took his camera and zoomed in, there's nobody there. Goes back inside. But on the TV, it's showing this so-called inauguration going on. Goes back outside, zooms back in. Nobody there. Now that was after the initial, that was video footage that came out later. After I figured something wasn't right with that whole inauguration thing. And then the one video clip part there was a woman standing in a white coat. And then when they changed cameras and came back, the woman in the white coat wasn't there. Where did she just go? She was just there. So there's all these little things that add up to a bigger picture. Okay? That's what it takes. Is you have to take these little tiny pieces and start putting this puzzle together so that you can see the bigger picture. And like I've said before, I feel like I've been working on a 10,000 piece puzzle, and through the years now, it's like sometimes I feel like I've got about 6,000 of them together, and then I get a new piece of this puzzle, piece of information, and go down this rabbit hole, and it's like, oh crap, well maybe I only got about 4,000 pieces of this 10,000 piece puzzle together. It's like, just exactly how big is this puzzle, even though it's only a 10,000 piece, until you get all of the borders done, you don't know how big this puzzle really is going to be, laying it out on a table. And some of the key pieces are border pieces, and until you have all of the border pieces, you can't even begin to see the whole picture. But we can start putting together certain sections of the puzzle and start seeing some of the picture of the bigger picture of what's going on. And that's exactly what I've been trying to do, not only for myself, but put that out there for everyone else. Back in 2017, 2018, I'm like, we're going back to the common law. Trump come right out and basically spilled the beans on that. Then he did that, the report of the Commission on Unalienable Rights, and then the 1776 Commission, their report. Now, that report just basically says, here's some issues we got, critical race theory being one of them, and here's how we need to deal with this and start re-educating the people. Huh. Imagine that. Education. Okay. So this is in part what I'm here doing. That's part of my business license, to provide news and education. So I've been trying to educate my fellow man on real law. And it's so important because we're going back to the rule of law, which by proclamation, Trump did that December 10th, 2017. It's already been done. It's up to us to do something about it on a local level. And that's the other thing I want to point about this military operation, is for the world stage, the world level. Okay? We're still going to have to deal with stuff here on a local state level. Because technically speaking, the military is not supposed to be used on the land against the people. It's supposed to be typically designed for foreign invasion. That's Article 4, Section 4. And internal insurrection. So, in part, that could be where they're talking about coming in and declaring martial law and taking out the de facto government. So, which would be your state governors, your lieutenant governors, the entire legislative branch, essentially the entire executive branch, and the entire judicial branch that as we know it right now. And all those people in those positions. Because they're all involved. And I told you so when that happens, because I've been warning some of my Idaho legislators that this is what's coming. That you better knock off what you're doing, because there's people watching and taking notes. And if you're involved in serious human rights abuse and corruption, you may get tied up in this. I was telling them this stuff 4 or 5 years ago when this stuff was coming out. And one of them got kind of pissy with me. Well, why don't you just go ahead and do what you say you're going to do? And it's like, it's not me. That's a military operation, dude. And you read the executive orders. Don't you know what's going on? Are you folks not paying attention? No, they're not. And what I've heard several times over the years is there's nobody else putting this stuff out. It was just me and Chris back in the day, and then John Gentry there for a little bit. Until Chris was murdered, November 15th, 2020. It's been me ever since. But I'm the one that's been following the executive orders and been doing that stuff, that side of the news and education. Let me see, check some comments here. Okay, so question out here on YouTube, Jerry. Is this the reason countries are being flooded with military-aged men as refugees? In part, that is to wake the people up about foreign invasion. Now, we may actually have to defend ourselves. It just all depends on how this all goes down and when it goes down, and if the military does come in and do one of the two options that I said. The first option, which is the military comes in and takes this all down. And I mean, like, here real soon. We won't have a 2024 election. Congress has already been talking about impeaching Biden, right? Marjorie Greene Taylor, she, introduced those articles of impeachment. There's some other stuff going on, but in my mind, that's just to wake people up to this open border stuff that's been going on for a long time. drug trafficking, human trafficking, smuggling, and all that stuff. That's the stuff that's been going on. And until we can wake the people up, until it starts landing on our front doorstep, for some people, they're not going to believe it. Now, for those of you that are awake now and have been aware of some of this stuff for a little while, I feel your angst, because I'm way ahead of most of you to begin with. And I'm like, come on, let's go. Now I get it. That it's a 7-year plan. Okay? And again, we're coming up to that 7-year delta. So, it just all depends on when that 7 years started. If it started December 20th, 2017, that's going to be what? December 20th of 2024. That's before January 6th and before January 20th, isn't it? So the November election would happen in November. Or will it? We got another year before that happens. So what's going to happen with the court case here? Just telling you, this will be a I told you so later. That the evidence is going to come out. Everybody's going to get to see this as all a matter of public record. And probably even going back to the 2016 election. 2017. Because some of that stuff already kind of came out, right? With the fake dossier and the attempt to impeach Trump, to be the Russia hoax, right? All those text messages back and forth about how they were going to stop Trump. Oh, Trump will never make it. Caught him off guard. They didn't think Trump would win to begin with, just let alone, totally annihilate Hillary Clinton. Even with their little bit of sham stuff they had going on. Okay. Right? Yes. We definitely need to reassemble, because all political power is inherent in the people. And this is one of those things that I called out right from the very, 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 very beginning of Trump's inauguration. January 20th. 2017. When Trump said he was putting the power back into the people's hands, I have asked over and over and over this same question. What is the power that Trump was referring to? And to be honest, nobody has ever really answered that question correctly, with the exception of a couple people now, after I've already been hammering this crap out, and it's assembly people. Right? The general population has no frickin' clue what Trump was talking about. The power there is the political power. All of it is inherent in the people. Not some of it, not most of it, but all of it. So he's given it back to us if we take up the torch and we do it. It's up to the people to do this. It isn't going to happen by itself. We have to reassemble the government de jure, the lawful government. where the people have all the power, the General Assembly. Okay? Once we have the General Assembly assembled, and then in part the counties all completely assembled, then we're a complete de jure government, right? Well, generally speaking, it's not even the government. We have control over the government, what we create. And it's up to us to create the government. Oh, that's the power. That's that power. Declaration of Independence, right? It's not just a duty, it's not just a right, but it is a duty to throw off such despotism and institute new guards for our security and safety. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men receiving their just powers under the consent of the governed. Okay? So the people are to lawfully assemble, create the General Assembly, and then once everything is all de jure and everything is up to speed, and we have the 38 states all properly assembled, then we can have that constitutional convention, and we have to send delegates. But in a state level, the General Assembly can create a new constitution. Or alternatively, we could pick up some of the original constitutions pre-1871, but in my mind, we would want to go clear back to pre-1787. Okay? Because that was the first bankruptcy in 1789, 1791 with the Bill of Rights. It's been corrupted since then. Not 1871, 1791, 1789 with the Constitution. Okay? And that's essentially where we're at, is we need to reassemble. Where the military is at is taking this stuff down worldwide, all the corruption and seizing all the assets and taking back things like gold. What else would be at the Vatican, folks? Do you know? Do you know what else is stored at the Vatican? How about our original birth certificates, the long forms, with our soul prints, footprints, soul print? Because this is how evil and twisted this is they want our souls. And that's the soul print on that document, albeit all fraud from its inception, void ab initio. So that's what's one of those other things that's stored in the Vatican is birth certificates. Ooh, there's a good one. Books of the Bible, like missing books of the Bible. Agenda 21. Please answer my question about the military. Let me go back up. Repost it because it's off of my comment feed. Real quick before you take off. Right? Yeah, I wonder how many trips they had to take to recover all the birth certificates. Probably not as much as the gold. Agenda 21, Truth 1. Hopefully you're still there. I missed your question about the military. I don't know if anybody else caught it, but it's off of my feed and I can't scroll back and see it. It's too far back. Brian, which groups do you endorse in Idaho? I'm in Meridian. I'll be honest, none. The people that I like, per se, is Health Freedom Idaho. They do a really good job on educating us on our health stuff. That's really about it. I know people's rights thing is a good idea. It's a great way to bring people together, and with the concept and idea of being there for each other and call upon each other for when we need help and assistance is very good. A very good. That's that, technically speaking, the unorganized by state or federal militia. We have every right to assemble that, to organize. Because the organized militia, the well-regulated militia, the organized, is organized by the state level or federal level. The unorganized portion is not organized by state or federal. And of course, the militia is composed of the body of the people, which is why the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That's in the Virginia Declaration of Rights, June 12, 1776. It's also in the Articles of Confederation. Oh, forget Anna von Reitz. Anna von Reitz doesn't have anything to do with any of this stuff. But Brian, you're in Meridian. I'm here in downtown Boise, stone's throw from the capital. If you'd like to connect with me, brother, send me an email. Let's see. What's my... What is it? Idaho de jure at protonmail.com, which I haven't been able to access. So send it to me at kirk@kirkslawcorner.com. If you would, Brian, out here on YouTube. I am the coordinator for Idaho, looking for people to come together. So let's see, did I get your... Agenda 21, you must have already taken off. I don't see your comment being reposted. Here's one. I was told by Navy SEALs that Holmseth is legit. Do you have an opinion? Well, I'll tell you, and I've said this before. I have seen the evidence that some of the evidence that Timothy had. This was in part when David Strait and I went out there in 2019, in March of 2019. And we literally filled up the back end of a Ford SUV full bins of documents, full of all sorts of evidence of FBI, CIA, your local police, local sheriffs that are all involved in child trafficking, satanic rituals, human trafficking, and all that stuff. Okay? I've personally handled that evidence. I've also seen the video footage of Mike Pence diddling a little boy. Okay? So, yes, in a sense, the evidence that Timothy Charles Holmseth has is legit. And I'll say this again. That stuff was taken to Roger Stone back in 2019. Okay? Other than that, essentially we cut ties in the end of 2019. And I'm just going to leave it at that because I don't want to disparage my fellow man, even though that's how he has treated me. And what he did to Chris and I was unacceptable by Chris and I. And that's why. But the evidence that he has is legitimate. I've seen it. I've heard audio recordings. I've seen emails. I've seen a plethora of documents from FBI, and some of it Timothy had put together. Like, okay, somebody would call and say, hey, I've got evidence of satanic rituals or child trafficking. And the documents would show the FBI agents would come and talk to him and take this evidence, and they would document all this stuff. And then he would have like a news article or something about how so-and-so committed suicide. A month later, 3 months later, 6 months later, they end up dead. What a coincidence. So this is why this is where I learned that, wait a minute, that I think the FBI just runs interference. That's what the FBI was really created for, was to run interference for people out here that would have legitimate evidence of corruption going on, and they would just kill them off because, well, they can't let that get out. They can't let the truth come out. So in part, that was by design to protect themselves. You know, and that's the whole reason why I went out there to try and save Timothy, because that was their plan, to set him up. He was charged with 4 so-called misdemeanor violations of a family law domestic violence protection order. Now, for those out there that are not aware of that, and the ones that are, and especially some of the trolls out there, why don't you go get the paperwork? Oh, we didn't win. We didn't. Yes, we did. We forced the showdown. They never responded to the motion to dismiss with an objection. And the judge failed to grant relief under a default judgment when it was due. And this is in part the part of the problem that both Tony Pellegrino and now myself are in agreement on, is we're done doing paperwork for other people, because the problem is when you go to court and they ask you questions about your paperwork and you don't know the law, you don't know your own paperwork, this is what happens. They get to railroad you. But the fact is, even their own rules of procedure specifically state you can move for either a default judgment. If there's no objection to the motion to dismiss, you can move for default judgment. And that's any motion. It's part of the rules of procedure. So that's what we did, because there was no response for proof, right? I demanded proof that Congress has the authority to redefine what domestic violence is pursuant to Article 4, Section 4. And I showed real law. I also brought up U.S. versus Morrison, a 2000 case that said that this particular parts of the the Violence Against Women Act, 1995, was declared to be unconstitutional. Oh, how many people knew about that one? Because domestic violence, pursuant to Article 4, Section 4, has to do with internal insurrection. Does not have anything to do with family law, which Congress nor state legislature has subject matter jurisdiction over our God-given rights as family. They have no power to make any legislation regarding that. None. Zero. Off limits. That would be a suit at common law. Suits between man and man, or man and a woman, because marriage is defined by God as a sacred vow between a man and a woman, unto God till death do them part. God defines what marriage is because God is the one that created it. No other man gets to subvert God's law, God's creation. So no, legislature doesn't have any authority, especially the marriage license. We don't seek permission from government to exercise a right. What does it say? Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion and free exercise thereof. Marriage is a religious act, period. Excuse me. So is that not an exercise or practice of religion when you get married? Absolutely it is, because God is the one that created it. So that would be an unlawfully created contract because, again, a contract or license is seeking permission to do a thing that otherwise would be illegal. Illegal meaning contracts. And what do they say? The rule of law is that there shall be no law impairing the obligations of a contract. Now, the exception to that rule of law, the other rule of law, is fraud vitiates everything from its inception, void ab initio. So another contract, like the birth certificate, is all fraud. You know, them different elements of a lawfully obtained contract. So, you know, that's some of the other things that I haven't mentioned here tonight was about the banking system, right? I told people way back, hey, look at this. 3 international banks in China were raided and shut down. I think that was in 2018 or 2019. Maybe it was 2019. I think it was 2019. So, you know, that's one of those I told you so's that's coming around. Not necessarily from this video itself, but the video from Great Britain and that woman herself. Didn't mention anything about the banking stuff. But that's in part what's going down too, is, right, you know, the Fed, sometimes referred to as the Federal Reserve, but it's called the Fed. It's not federal, there's no reserve, they just print whatever they want to print. Was transferred over, Trump transferred that into the Department of Treasury, where money is supposed to be dealt from, right? It's supposed to come and go from the Department of Treasury. Anybody who understands any kind of business structure, you know, you've got your CEO, your president, whatever, your vice president, your secretary, and your treasurer that handles the money. It is a corporation, and to be the bearer of bad news here, it's been corporations all throughout history, is really how it's all been done. Starting with the Virginia Company. Okay? And there was a couple of others there, I just can't remember them off the top of my head. I know, odd, right? I haven't committed them to memory yet, but there was a couple there. But starting clear back in 1606 with the first charter of Virginia, the Virginia Company was already created and came over here, and that was part of what was going on to set up shop here, start mining for gold and silver and all these other elements. And it even lays out in the second charter of Virginia, a certain percentage of gold, certain percentage of silver, certain percentage of copper was shipped over to Great Britain. That was part of the charters of freedom, right? Definitely want to point out that was when we brought the English common law with them. You know, they were refugees. They were fleeing. Read them. Read the first charter of Virginia of 1606. It says they were fleeing Great Britain for religious reasons. This goes even back to the Magna Carta, 1215. These were the good Christian people, the Protestants, that wanted to separate from the Roman Catholic Church. They knew back in 1215. Okay? It's even in the Magna Carta, separating from the Roman Catholic Church. So, you know, that's a really a serious piece, document, a piece of history that really needs to be read and understood. Literally, understood, because that's the Great Charter of Liberty for all English-speaking nations, countries. I wonder how many people actually knew that. And it is the root of our law here for America. America being the nation. So, back to kind of the plan here being laid out here is that this is going to come out. And this is how it's going to be exposed. It's, these things take time. And there's a lot worldwide for our military to take care of. And they're still fighting over there in Ukraine. So essentially, until Ukraine is fully taken down, taken over, and reestablish the rule of law and a democracy over there, and they have elections, and get up a de jure government, won't be done with Ukraine. And don't forget all the deep underground stuff that's been going on. And like I've said before, is that, like Trump said, he came out and flat out said, look, this is much bigger than we thought it was. And in 2018, Trump ordered the military to start training for deep underground warfare. Why would he do that? Because there's a lot of stuff underground going on. That's what the Comfort and the Mercy was all about. One on the West Coast and one on the East Coast. Okay? And Trump flat out said, the Comfort and the Mercy is not for COVID patients. And he flat out said that was that they were seeing that there were something about seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and that for some of them have never seen that, never seen the light. But that was one of those quick, short sentences, and if you don't know what he's referring to and you don't know what he's talking about, you're not going to get it. Which is why I was on board with what's going on, because when Trump was doing his inauguration, or not his inauguration, his campaign trail, because I'll say this again, I didn't care for Trump. I didn't like Trump to begin with. In a way, I couldn't stand him, right? Thought he was pretty arrogant, but he's a businessman. He's a shrewd businessman, and that's okay. But in watching the Apprentice, whatever show there, you're fired, and how harsh he is to certain people, but that's business. And in a way, I kind of actually like him, because in a way, I'm kind of the same way. I can be pretty harsh, and those that know me personally and have been around me and in dealing with my personal business have felt that. You're fired. And not to be proud of that or nothing, but I'm referring to Trump himself and our similarities. I'm not proud of having to do what I've had to do, but in watching his campaign trail, I listened, right? And I want to let people know again. Okay, I've been studying law and the history of law since 1995. Okay, where are we at now? Coming up on 2024. How many years is that now? Think about that for just a minute. Now, I'm not saying it was every day. Sometimes it was. Sometimes it was every day for a month or two, a few months on end. But I can tell you over the last definitely the last decade, and then some, probably since around 2009-ish, I've really kind of gone down a lot of rabbit holes and started digging into stuff, and more specifically around Obama's attempt to run for office for the second round. I discovered that he didn't have a legitimate, he's not a natural-born citizen. I have that paperwork. I have the writ of Coronto. I have all the evidence proving that Obama's not who he says he is, and his father is from Kenya, which means both parents are not citizens of the United States of America. And that is that definition which the Constitution requires, it's a requirement to run for the office of president, that you be a natural-born citizen. That definition comes from the Law of Nations, Book 1, Chapter 19, subsection 212, which also is the heading in the definition of citizen in itself. But within that section is natural-born citizen, which are parents, a child who is born of both parents being citizens. Okay. And Obama's father was not. His father's from Kenya. So, technically speaking, lawfully speaking, constitutionally speaking, Obama should have never been, he was not qualified to run for office. Gee, election fraud. But that's when I started really getting serious about politics. And that was 2009-ish. So, given the research and the rabbit holes and everything that I had been down at that particular point in time when Trump announced him running for office, the coming down the escalator there, I started tuning in and listening to what Trump was saying. And he put out all sorts of truths about the world child pedophilia ring, the banking industry, the corruption within governments. And I'm like, holy crap, he knows about that, and he knows about this, and he knows. And if you haven't been down these rabbit holes and you haven't studied the history like I have, you wouldn't catch it. And that's why so many people are in the dark today, is because they don't know. They don't really get what's going on because, hate to quote somebody else there, Derek Johnson, laws and orders. But it's the law, the Constitution, the law of nations, which I just showed that again here recently about the Constitution. Right in there it says the law of nations in the federal Constitution. So, that's what's all going on. The Law of War Manual, the Manual for Courts Martial, the Uniform Code of Military Justice. I showed those executive orders when those were amended back in the day. It's even in my educational series. Went over them again here, September of last year. Now, over on my website, kirkslawcorner.com. In fact, I'll just pull that up so everybody can see it too. Maybe I will. Okay. Come on. So over on my website, right up here, you got home, library, links. I know this free thing, it didn't work out right. We haven't been able to set up the email stuff yet, which that's another thing. If anybody out there has a little more knowledge than I do on that kind of stuff, helping up with server stuff, emails and that kind of stuff, please send me an email to one that works, kirk@kirkslawcorner.com. So the first thing here is all of these are links to everything that we have going on. Facebook page, my Telegram channel, Patreon, okay, YouTube, and Rumble. So make sure you like, subscribe, follow, share, all of those good things. Patreon is where I do Wednesday night workshops. Now, Tier 1 and Tier 2 are basic. It's $5 a month or $10 a month just to support this right here. The free education, the free news and education that I provide for free here. That's what I'm asking you to help support. Plus anything else I might have going on that I don't talk about much about, paperwork-wise, and some of the other people that I work with behind the scenes. So, that's going to affect everybody, or is starting to affect everybody. Just saying. But that is just to help. It's a donation. It's like buying me a cup of coffee or 2 cups of coffee. If you're talking a $5 cup of coffee these days, some are even more than that. Go to Moxie Java or Starbucks, whatever. Tier 3 is the Wednesday night workshop private, where I do private classes, private discussions, some on current events, some other stuff that I share. It's all in the private over there. And then Tier 4, for those of you that keep asking about, one-on-ones with me, wanting to talk to me one-on-one, that's what Tier 4 is for. And I have that set up now for Calendly, for people to set their appointments. It's been working pretty good. Now that people are learning how to use that to go in there and set up appointments, which I'm going to have to probably change some days. And especially this week, a couple of you already know this, but my brother and I are going to be going camping. So, in fact, we're going to be actually taking off Tuesday, tomorrow, because my brother got Wednesday off as well. It was going to be Wednesday evening, but or Wednesday afternoon after we got off of work at 2. But yeah, taking a nice long camping vacation this week. Probably won't be back until Saturday. So it's going to be very nice and relaxing. Definitely going to go trying to drown some worms and do that kind of fancy stuff. So, anywho, back to my website. Now that you know about Patreon, let's go to the library tab. For your own self-study, aside from going to the YouTube channel here, episodes 1 through 8. Now there's 3 more there, 2 on the laws of nature and 1 on the report of the Commission on Unalienable Rights. Okay, that I've added into that playlist as an educational series. This is where I try to send people free education in a chronological order of things at the time when I did it. And when you go through this, you'll see that I talked about the proclamation, the executive orders, and the plan, and the stuff that was going on back then. Again, before Derek Johnson. I put that little package together in one of the videos, laying out the executive orders and the manual to courts martials and all that stuff that was going down. Right? So, that's it there. Yeah, this is the part that's broken. You can join the email list, but I don't have it set up. So I can't. And the real deal was I wouldn't do anything with your emails unless they took me down and you guys needed to find out where I'm at. And I haven't. Mostly because I can't really do anything unless I did an individual email. But all right, back to the library tab, because this is important. Reading means reading. And I put here, this is a good place to start reading to learn the basics of the American common law and the law of nations, or the principles of the laws of nature as international law. Treatise on Arrest and False Imprisonment by Charles Wiseman, as well as The Authority of Law by Charles Wiseman, are just rock solid. The Treatise on Arrest and False Imprisonment even gives you document templates of a summons, a complaint, and a memorandum of law. And this particular book is all around, really, a traffic stop. So, for those of you that got traffic tickets and that kind of stuff, want some help, I highly recommend you read that sucker first before even talking to me. Read that sucker. Get some knowledge. Boy, it's jam-packed with just a crap ton of knowledge. And anybody that has read that already, you all know. Heavy on the common law. Then the authority of law is about the legislative branch and creating real statutes. What a real statute looks like. How it's supposed to be done. And what their authority is and where it comes from, the Constitution. Such as like subject matter jurisdiction must come from the Constitution. It must state with particularity that the legislature has the authority to make legislation regarding this particular subject. If it's not in the Constitution, then they don't have subject matter jurisdiction. Which, to the contrary of what they have come out and said now, oh yeah, well if it doesn't say we can't do it, then we can. No, that's not how contract law works. And I always like to use hey, if you're one of those kind of guys that think that, well, I'd love to contract with you to paint your house or whatever contract you want to enter into, because if the contract doesn't say that I can't do that, then I can. And boy, would I love to contract with you. Because then I can do all sorts of things aside from paint your house. Because, well, the contract didn't say I couldn't do it. It says in the Declaration of Independence that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, receiving their just powers. That's right. We the people establish justice. Not the legislature, not the executive, not the judicial. We the people do. So, that's part of that all political powers inherent in the people. Not the legislature, not the executive, and not the judicial. All right. Then you got the law of nations, or the principles of the law of nature applied to the conduct and affairs of nations and sovereigns, with 3 early essays on the origin and nature of natural law and on luxury by Emer D. Vattel. This is regarded as international law, and it is the law of nations. Okay? And again, the Constitution for the United States of America references it. Then you have the report of the Commission on Unalienable Rights. This is all about rights. And I still have not yet read all of that. I need to, one of these days. I keep praying to God for 36-hour days so I can have more time. But in a day. But, God set this stuff in stone time-wise, so we're kind of stuck that. Now we get down in here to manuals for parliamentary practice for the legislature. And it starts with Lex Parliamentaria Americana because, and I found this through this one, the 2010 edition of Mason's Manual of Legislative Procedure. This is Rules of Procedure. Okay? And in this particular 2010 edition, it references this cushion, so many times, sometimes 2, 3, 4 times on one little page. And there's not a whole lot of information. This book here literally fits, it's just a little bit bigger than the palm of my hand. It fits in the palm of my hand. Okay? That's how small this book is. And the printing is rather large print. There's not a whole lot in each page. But all throughout this book, it references this cushion. So I finally, when I got the 2020 edition, I was like, dang it, that's right. I meant to go look this cushion thing up, and I finally found it. PDF. Here it is. Now, I actually have the actual book. Thank you to a certain gentleman out there. Here's the real book. Real deal. Okay? So, reading means reading. But let's look at what the title of it is. Elements of the law and practice of the legislative assemblies of the United States of America. It's the law and practice of the legislative assemblies of the United States of America. Let me say that again. It's the law and practice of the legislative assemblies of the United States of America. So, those that are interested in assembling the General Assembly, you might want to read that book because that's the law that we're all looking for. The common law. The American common law. Now, this has English common law in it because it's the whole history. How this all started. Where it came from. And I don't know, the right of petition. The right of remonstrance. The right of address. The right of protest is a remonstrance. And there is a difference, a very clear difference between a petition and a remonstrance. So this is one of the mistakes, errors that Chris, myself, and John, we were all making, was calling it a petition of remonstrance when it's not. It's just a petition. Or it's just a remonstrance. But that's the book. And I've done a couple of different videos on that book alone, especially one about the elections and one specifically petitions in general. They have a prayer for relief, a demand. Okay? And then old Thomas Jefferson's manual, Parliamentary Practice. And then an old 1953 version of Mason's Manual of Legislative Procedure. Now, next section here. Commentaries on the Constitution by Joseph Story. Oh, man. Great breakdown on the Constitution. 3 different volumes. There you go. All about the Constitution. References Federalists. References all sorts of stuff throughout history. Where this stuff came from. And notice, this is 1833. This is before 1871. So this is a great read. And to quote Joseph Story in his commentaries here about the title of nobility, yeah, that's not supposed to exist, and it would set up an odious claim. Yeah, one of my new favorite words, so I guess it's not new now, but when I found that, odious, and one of my favorite words there is skanky. So, it's a very, very negative name, right? Word, odious claim. But yeah, we're not supposed to have titles of nobility. It's not supposed to exist in our republic per the Constitution, and not the Article the 13th. I'm talking about Article 1, Section 9, Clause 8. No titles of nobility is already prohibited. The original Article of the 13th was to provide the punishment, which is why okay, wait a minute. Why didn't they just make a statute that says, oh, if you take a title of nobility, you cease to be a citizen of the United States, you can't hold any office of public trust ever again? Because that's how we're supposed to make law. Because that's how we make law. The rest is statutes. That's not law. That's policy. And it only applies to those who are bound by it. Imagine that. Rights are the law, because that's synonymous with the French word droit, meaning right or law. Even Bouvet's Law Dictionary 56, if you look up the word right, says it's a law. Oh, but we don't. It's not very often that it's said it that way. I think it needs to be said more often. That rights are actually the law. Yeah. Okay. So this one is one of the ones I highly recommend reading from. Bouvet's Law Dictionary 1856. Black's Law Dictionary, sure. Although I'm starting to understand why we shouldn't even be using Black's Law, because that's Blackstone. That's over in England. So that's, well, what kind of English is that's English? That's Blackstone's English. We're American English. We speak American English, not England English. Not Great Britain English, not Blackstone's English. So, just to be forewarned, but there's still some good stuff in there, right? And then this one here is a collection of legal maxims, or maxims of law. Most of it is in Latin, and then translated into English. Because that's, I know it's a dead language. It's a dead language because we don't really use it anymore. But that's where a lot of the maxims of laws came from the Bible, into Latin. So, good one to read there. Very good read. And then I have down here the Virginia Declaration of Rights, June 12, 1776, which came right out of this book that I have sitting right here, Annals of America, Volume 2, as well as I've got the 7-volume set of the history of the organic law, state and federal constitutions, and all that good stuff. It's a big, long sentence for a title of the volumes, but it has all the historical documents from the history of the United States of America. But this here shows in Article the 13th on that one, the Virginia Declaration of Rights, that the right to trial by jury consists of 12 men, which they leave out on Avalon. They don't want us to know that we have a right to a trial by jury of 12 men of our vicinage, without whose unanimous consent we cannot be found guilty. Oh, that's right. That's where that beyond a reasonable doubt standard comes from, as you have to get consent from all 12. If one of them says, I'm just not quite convinced, I'm not giving my consent, that is an acquittal. They call it it's a hung jury. It has to be unanimous one way or the other. No, it does not. That's not the beyond a reasonable doubt standard. The beyond a reasonable, because a man doesn't have to prove his innocence. He doesn't have to get consent from all 12 men for finding of innocence. The moving party has to get consent from all 12 men for finding of guilt. That you convince them. All of them. That's that beyond a reasonable doubt. Because you convinced all 12 men. But if there's one that says, I'm not quite convinced, that's done. Some of the things that are going to be coming back. Just saying. There is the 1776 report. That's in there. This is the brief that I originally did back in 2013-2014 case, the right to not have to have a driver's license. See, I've already kind of defeated this stuff. Already done that. Haven't had a driver's license for quite some time. So, that's the documentation that I used. Now, knowing what I've learned since then is it's not exactly in proper form. But, yeah. If you watch my educational series, you might learn a little bit in episode 2 and 3 there about doing the proper documents. Otherwise, you'll want to get into Patreon Wednesday Night Workshop. All right, folks. I hope you enjoyed this show tonight. Laying all this stuff out that I've been saying for years. And a whole bunch of I told you so's tonight. Some people, what's your source? Where's your evidence? I've already provided the evidence through executive orders and that kind of stuff, and little tidbits here and there over time. But here we have somebody who's really in the know and on mainstream media for Great Britain, not America. You won't ever find her here. Not talking like that. But, yeah, I told you. I told you. I wondered about that one. Thank you over here on Rumble. Huge chimp, Michael. It says once every 4 years the government publishes the Constitution of the United States of America, analysis and interpretation. It is excellent. Here's the online version. Constitution.congress.gov. I wonder if that's just the Constitution itself. I wonder here if it will. Oh, yeah, it's just the Constitution. Never mind. Not what I was thinking. But yeah, I go to law.cornell.edu, which does the annotated, but this is Constitution annotated too. Oh, okay, now I'm getting what you're saying. It is the annotated version. So yes, probably better than law.cornell.edu, who keeps changing stuff as I show it and expose certain things. So thank you, Michael, for that one. And I already probably, oh no, I guess I didn't copy it. I'm going to drop that in the comments here. And I don't know if I can. No, I have no way of posting that there on Facebook or YouTube. Not from right here. Anywho, it is on Telegram. I highly recommend getting on my Telegram channel, because I do a lot of stuff through my Telegram. I'm very busy on the Telegram stuff. And Facebook is pretty much it. Yes, I'm on Twitter. Yes, I'm on Truth Social, Getter, which I don't really do much on Getter at all. I really don't like Getter too much. Truth Social is okay. Twitter, I'm predominantly either on Facebook or Telegram, but mostly on Telegram. So for those on Telegram, some of those videos that I recently shared, I advised you all to watch those prior to the show tonight, so you would have a better understanding of what I was laying out tonight and what was showed tonight. So for those of you that are not on my Telegram channel, I highly recommend get over there and go watch these videos so you get a bigger picture if you haven't already seen these. But they're on Telegram, so some of them I've actually downloaded and uploaded, that kind of stuff. But right? Yeah. So you can, again, get that on my website, kirkslawcorner.com, my Telegram channel link. And just for shits and giggles here, channels cannot send private messages. Kirk's Law Corner LLC will never send you a message about cryptocurrency and signing up for anything like that. Not gonna do it. Okay? I don't do anything crypto. No Bitcoin, none of that. I don't know anything about it. I mean, okay, I know Bitcoin. I know it exists. But literally, I don't know much about any of the cryptocurrency stuff. Never even really looked into it. One, I'm opposed to it because it's fake. I know some of you are really into the cryptocurrency stuff, but it's all fake. Fake. I want something tangible in my hand. Okay? So, y'all have a wonderful week, and I'll see you back here for Monday Night Law next week. And Wednesday night workshop will be canceled this week, obviously, because I'll be gone on vacation, drowning some worms and tearing up some dirt. Gonna have a fun, relaxing time. And hopefully I don't hurt myself this time. I'm really looking forward to having some serious fun this time. And my back is starting to feel better. I've been seeing a chiropractor. And he's more than just doing the crack me up stuff. So, good stuff. Of course, a lot of it's I got to do a lot of my own self. I got to exercise and stretches, which has actually been helping my lower back quite a bit, actually. And getting out there working, which I've been working my tail off on the remodel, which just barely finished that up last Sunday. My aunt's still unpacking stuff over there, but good times, and look forward to having some relaxing time, tuning out, getting away from any kind of electronics and that kind of good stuff. So get back to nature, go hang out in the woods, hang out by some water, and do some grounding and that kind of good stuff. So much love, everybody. God bless. Thank you for the likes, follows, and shares, and I hope you enjoy Kirk's Law Corner here and the education news that I provide. And God bless. God bless America. God bless the world. And we got to do this. We the people. And again, I'll throw that back out there. national-assembly.net. Go look at that. And Thursdays is the education call. We have the business side of the call, which, again, the national-assembly.net is actually a school providing education. It's not actually the National Assembly, but it's the people that are involved in assembling the government de jure, the real General Assemblies, the only legitimate one out there. So, with that, God bless. Have a great weekend, great week until I see you next week.